What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So with San Diego Comic-Con now in full swing, we're starting to get a bunch of announcements, some being fairly surprising with even Nintendo kind of being there, and then we also had a pretty serious leak for a couple of remasters, we'll say, that seems to be in the works now, and we even got an update on the Bioshock movie that maybe isn't going the route people were hoping for, but we'll go over all of that here today. So if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members for the channel do get Newswave early. If you'd like to learn more about that, click the join button down below this video. And we're gonna start today with Concord. Not necessarily the game itself. Again, that's coming out a few weeks now as we get into August, but actually a new controller that was announced for it, which I'm sure everyone's very excited to hear right now, but let's take a look. This is over on PlayStation's Direct website, and it is indeed the Concord Limited Edition DualSense Wireless Controller. It is priced at $84.99. This is over on their PlayStation Direct, as I mentioned, website, that for this link anyway that they shared on their Twitter X account is North America only, I believe, at this time, or US only. So as I'm sure we get further in, we'll see them pop up for different regions. But at $85, it's I'm sure many people are looking at that and just kind of go, oh, you know what, I think I'm good. Although I will say this, I think the design looks pretty good. It's not necessarily branded as Concord on the controller. Like, there's no big logo there, which I think is a good move in general, as we've seen that basically with all of their limited edition controllers at this time, is they just have a design that coincides with the game. And the thing with Concord is I actually think the art style, the color palettes, that sort of thing, especially like some of the load screens that pop up on like a nice OLED display, look really good. And this seems to be something very similar here with the controller. But if you're not really excited for Concord, I don't know why you'd necessarily go out and just grab this DualSense controller. But either way, it will be there when the game comes out August 23rd. Also, we had some good news for Dragon Age the Veilguard, even though that's been a whole thing on its reveal. It does look like they are leaning into the idea of Steamdeck compatibility across the board, even kind of throwing the EA launcher under the bus a bit here. We can see this posted up over on their official account, where they say we're making great progress towards our fall launch date, and we can confirm early that Dragon Age Veilguard is going all in on Steam features, so it's verified on Steamdeck, and it'll be Steam native, meaning the EA app will not be required to play the game. And this is great since the launcher situation on PC is something that comes up and is a lot of frustration for gamers who just want to stick to Steam. They don't want to click on a game, have it launch, and then bring up a whole other launcher, and you got to sign in there, so there's another password or username you got to deal with there if it's not auto login already, and just having to leave Steam or go off of Steam in general is frustrating, and that can also cause a lot of issues with Steamdeck, which seems like they are really trying to play into here with something like Dragon Age. So even though I know there's been a lot of fighting back and forth over this new version of Dragon Age, this new game, I do hope this is something we see just in general from EA going forward to really, I'd say, benefit Steam Deck users out there not having to worry about their launcher. Oh, and we did have some unfortunate news for Stalker 2, as it does appear to have been delayed a couple of months. This was posted up over on their official account. We have a little card here with all kinds of text, and you know what that means usually. Usually it's bad news, but they say Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl will now be launching on November 20th, 2024, moving from the previously planned date of September 5th, 2024. We know you might be tired of waiting, and we truly appreciate your patience. These 2 additional months will give us the chance to fix more unexpected anomalies, or simply bugs, as you call them. This game has been delayed a couple of times now, but here we are with essentially what is a 2.5 month delay into third week of November. The only thing with that is, well, I know that obviously the studio here has been going through a lot just outside of game development. November is going to be, I think, a very crowded time for game releases, and even if that exact week isn't, there'll probably have already been a ton of games that have come out in like the month leading up to that, and then there'll probably be a few others like the following week here after November 20th. So that's the only thing, is they're going to find themselves in a very crowded time whereas September 5th, there doesn't seem to be as much kind of surrounding it compared to, well, running up to the holiday season. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with a couple of remasters that appear to have leaked out early from San Diego Comic-Con, and this event is going on now through the weekend, and we'll see all kinds of other announcements as there are a bunch of panels for video games and all kinds of pop culture stuff right now, movies, TV shows, that sort of thing, and it looks like we could actually see a remastered bundle release for Soul Reaver 1 and 2, and this actually comes way of Reset Era. As a user over there we could see posted up this image. This is from Mama Robotnik, and there's a little card here. This is in front of what I think they have like some statues and stuff, which look really cool for Legacy of Kain. And they do have a comic series coming out for Legacy of Kain series Soul Reaver, and that's sort of what this is for here. But the card itself actually references Soul Reaver 1 and 2 Remastered, and it is doesn't look accidental. It appears to just be a logo that they have printed here and put on the card. I mean, it's next to a QR code that goes to their website, the Dark Horse Comics website, so it looks to me like, I don't know, somebody just threw this out there, maybe had marketing mix up. This was where they thought it was going to be announced, or again, crossed wires. And here we are now with a Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver 1 and 2 Remastered logo sitting in front of the statues that they have here, kind of showing off like the collector side of things. But this is very exciting. Crystal Dynamics, of course, we would expect to be working on this in some way, and sure, they could be working with like another porting company or someone else that can help work to remaster the Soul Reaver series here. But Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver 1 and then Soul Reaver 2 back in like the 90s and then 2001. It's a franchise that is a bit harder to access now. I say that because Soul Reaver 1 got pulled down from GOG and Steam like a year or so ago. Soul Reaver 2 is still accessible, but in order to play that, I would say in a more modernized or digestible fashion, you would be using like patches and stuff that have been created by the community, especially when it comes to controls, for example, and even just graphical settings with newer video cards and PC setups. Or I guess you could technically go back and pick it up on the Dreamcast or pick it up on the PlayStation 2 and go that route, but even that, hooking up to modern TVs, has been a whole thing. Basically, the idea of a remastered collection like this that I assume would release everywhere possible, which, I mean, PlayStation, Xbox, PC, Nintendo, everything, I think is an awesome idea for a franchise like this. And that's the thing with Embracer Group, at the very least, we've seen them do this a lot, where they will have bought a bunch of intellectual properties, and while they are struggling now, their strategy at that time when they were on a buying spree was buy a bunch of dormant IPs and then remaster some of the old games, kind of flip them to get some money back. And while they are in this kind of panic mode right now, they're also trying to figure out how they can make money to get themselves out of this panic mode. And I think having Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver 1 and 2 Remaster is a good strategy, and I think a good way to at least make some money back on that purchase that they did that, yes, included Soul Reaver, but a bunch of other intellectual properties and even some studios and stuff alongside of it. So this is exciting. It's something to keep an eye on here just to make these more accessible. And who knows, maybe there's a future for something else when it comes to Legacy of Kain and Soul Reaver. Anything's possible, although, again, it's under Embracer Group. Let's just see if we can get 1 and 2 remastered out there first. Next up, let's talk about another announcement out of San Diego Comic-Con. This one, though, for Nintendo and LEGO, which we have seen many collaborations between these two companies now with these smaller sets as well as these major projects that you can do, whether it's the original Nintendo and a TV that actually functions kinda, right? It has like the scene that goes by, the big question mark block, big Bowser, a lot of really cool stuff there. But this one I thought was a really neat and actually pretty clever idea, because when you first look at it here, which you can see this over on LEGO's website, it's the Super Mario World, Mario, and Yoshi. And when you first look at it, you go, oh, okay, that's kind of fun. You just sort of build it, and it looks like it's straight out of the Super Mario World game. Well, you have a little lever on the side that you can turn, and it looks like they're kind of running along here, just their animation plays out. And then on the back of the Lego set, you can turn another crank, and it has Yoshi stick out his tongue. So again, it looks like it's from the game itself there in motion with the animation. which is really cool because then you realize, oh wait, this is built out of Legos. It's just impressive what you can do with what are just plastic blocks that click together, but yeah, really cool stuff. Now this is $130, so I think something that people who maybe aren't as into Legos are realizing as they see these collaborations with Nintendo. Legos aren't cheap. They've been expensive for a while. They're still expensive now, especially if you want these larger sets, as this is over 1,200 pieces, and it is set up for ages 18 plus. But really, again, a cool idea. It's October 1st is when it'll start shipping. They are taking pre-orders now over on their website. They have a video that also showcases all of the features around this set. And while I'm not personally a builder for a lot of these things, as I don't really buy them and then sit there and put them together, it does look like it's a lot of fun when it's all finished up and you can kind of set it up on the shelf. And I guess technically, if you set it in the right position, you can make it look like a frame directly out of Super Mario World with Yoshi going to eat an enemy or something there. So pretty cool stuff. Definitely want to get a pre-order in if you were looking into this, as this seems like something that would probably sell out and then maybe get marked up online later. Next up, let's talk about PlayStation VR 2 and PC. We do know that here in a week or two, we will see PlayStation VR 2 then become compatible with PC through Steam. And there's also the little breaker box thing that you have to pick up, the accessory for $60 that would allow your PSVR 2 headset to connect to your PC. But now we have an application that has appeared over on Steam, which we can see here, and this is indeed the PlayStation VR 2 app. I was kind of wondering how this was going to work exactly before this Steam app appeared here, because there's still gonna have to basically be a home base for your VR2 headset to, say, update through or set up ahead of time before you jump into something like Half-Life Alyx, and that is indeed what we are seeing here. So in this instance, it will allow you to set up your VR2 headset step by step, and kind of like what we have when you plug it into the PlayStation 5, where you also have your Sense controllers. It'll most likely have to scan your environment and adjust any additional settings with screen brightness as you get ready to jump into any of these other third-party games that technically Sony doesn't have native support necessarily. They're just, of course, relying on something like Windows to get them there with this app. Now, it is important to note that while this is clearly needed for the setup of the headset, they also mentioned you're just going to need to have this installed consistently going forward, and most likely when you, say, go to launch a game and then it also uses this headset, you'll have that application running in the background. Maybe it'll start up automatically alongside of a game like a Half-Life Alyx or others, so that everything can have your profile or your settings ready to go right out of the gate. But this will be launching August 6th, one day before that accessory releases, so that you can plug in your headset. So of course, if you are getting that, you're just going to want to make sure you have this application installed, but I guess technically it would probably remind you of that when you plug in the box. I think I will be getting the box to adapt the headset to PC and this application, of course, because I'm just curious to see how all of that works out, since there will be some features that are missing that Sony claims is just PlayStation 5 specific and would be, I guess, impossible to work on PC. Although they mentioned firmware updates down the road through this app, so who knows, maybe in a few months, maybe a year down the line, we all of a sudden start to see what things like eye tracking and different parts of that make its way into the headset, and it will mirror one-to-one what we have with the PlayStation 5 at some point. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about something else that came out of San Diego Comic-Con. This has to do with that Bioshock movie that is in the works at Netflix, because it seems like it's getting pared back a bit. We can see this posted up. This is over on Variety, and they say Netflix's film adaptation of the seminal video game Bioshock with director Francis Lawrence is being reconfigured to be a more personal film with a reduced budget. Producer Roy Lee, who did the Lego movie, revealed on Thursday during a panel at San Diego Comic-Con. Now, Bioshock, this Netflix collaboration for a movie, that was announced a couple of years ago, back at the beginning of 2022. They're going to say the new regime has lowered the budgets, so we're doing a much smaller version. It's going to be a more personal point of view as opposed to a grander, big project. Lawrence is still attached to direct, so there we go. But this is odd, because for one thing, I don't think they missed the boat with a Bioshock movie. Clearly, it would have been much more popular if they could have done something like that back when Bioshock had come out a few years prior, and maybe they get it into theaters alongside of Bioshock 2, even though Bioshock 2, not as good as the first one, but still, Bioshock was certainly on a high compared to now, where it's just been kind of missing for a while. We do know that there is another Bioshock game in the works, and I almost wonder if it's worth holding on to this Netflix movie until that next Bioshock game has been out for at least a year or so, just to get people excited about it again. And then we're also assuming that this new Bioshock game is going to be good, which I'm gonna figure it is, but we've seen a lot of stumbles here and there in the gaming industry, so I guess you never know. But if, say, it comes out and the game's good and Bioshock is back, then I think is a great time to launch a Netflix movie like this, considering we see Netflix stuff just drop sometimes out of nowhere. They just, here you go, it's on Netflix tonight. So sure, Bioshock can have a smaller run-up compared to if you put it into theaters and they're going to go for like a full year out and try to advertise this thing. I think Netflix could be very interesting to see it pop up there, but them having to pull back on some of the budget does make me assume that it's going to follow one character. You're not going to have crazy special effects or massive panoramic views or anything, and they're going to have it be, yes, chopped down in terms of budget, but maybe that'll force them to rethink some of the plot details, and I mean, that could actually force them into a corner to where they have to make a really, really compelling story to make up for basically everything else that's missing around it, which, I mean, that was the big thing for Bioshock back in the day, was that big reveal towards the end that actually kind of mimicked sort of the narrative direction that we would see in really good movies. So maybe it can come full circle for this Netflix movie, but didn't seem too hopeful online with a lot of people when they heard this. Guess we'll see here, hopefully in a couple of years. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, have you played a Soul Reaver game before? 69%. Good job, everyone. Says no. 31% say yes. That's actually more for yes than I was expecting. I just kind of view Soul Reaver in particular, Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver, those two games that I'm thinking of, as kind of niche titles. Although I guess back then, I feel like people did talk about it on the Dreamcast back in the day, and that's actually where I had played the first one. It was also on the original PlayStation, but I played it on the Dreamcast. And the second one, Soul Reaver 2, I played on the PS2, and it was one of those random rentals. Like, you just go to the rental store or grab something for the weekend. And I remember that's when I just kind of picked up on a whim because I had played the first one on the Dreamcast. And I thought I was really, really good at that time, but the first one was more open-ended, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a long time since I've played these games. I feel like the first one had more of an impact on me than the second. But still, the PS2, the visuals and stuff there were automatically, you're like, okay, this is pretty cool because it just looked awesome. But I would love to see it again as a remastered package that releases, just so I can kind of revisit that. Hopefully they spend a bit more time on maybe the controls and that sort of thing than just do like a one-to-one remaster, throw it out there and hope for the best. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from King is Here, says, it infuriates me that they cancel a Days Gone sequel, but something like Concord gets greenlit. Well, I think Concord is easier to sell to executives or higher-ups in that case. When you're trying to just get a game past the conceptual stages, if you go, hey, this is like Overwatch, and you're looking for live service games, so you should make this Overwatch clone. I mean, they're going to do little twists they can on it here and there, but Days Gone, I remember when that game came out and Sony wasn't exactly thrilled with the state that it released in. So if you're going to the table with executives and you're like, let's make a sequel to a game that you guys were kind of annoyed about when it first came out because it wasn't up to this quality standard, or we can feed into this live service initiative that you're doing and we'll make an Overwatch game that has proven to make a ton of money, as we've seen now for Blizzard. We'll just do that. Obviously, executives who are like, oh yeah, money, they're going to go with the Overwatch clone or the Overwatch-inspired game, I'll say, with Concord. And that's basically why you see something like that get greenlit, whereas Days Gone 2, they're thinking, it's going to cost a lot of money. I don't want to risk that. But I guess the good news here is Bend Studio is working on something brand new, so they didn't exactly leave them out in the cold completely. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Whether Soul Reaver 1 and 2 Remaster, are you excited to maybe revisit those or check them out for the first time? And then also, what about Super Mario World Lego, the set? Are you picking that one up? Are you a big collector when it comes to Nintendo and these Lego collaborations? And the Bioshock movie, while they are saying it's going to be pulled back a bit in terms of budget, are you still interested to see what direction they take it now, it being more personal? Thanks, guys, for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll see you back here Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time for Newswave.